Perfect. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Win Kilpack. I am an international admissions at Westminster College. And welcome to our virtual panel. Today we have a virtual panel. Our theme is international financial aid. And with me today is Nathan. I'm going to let Nathan introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Jones. I'm the Director of International Admissions here at Westminster College, and this is going on my third year here at Westminster, and we're very excited to bring this presentation to you today with Wynn and some of our current and one of our alumni students as well.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. So I just want to go over, if you're not familiar with Teams, if you're joining from the website, at the bottom of your screen, there would be a little bubble that looked like a message. So that's how you open the chat up. So throughout our panel, please feel free to put in your questions there. If something that our panelists share that you have questions about, just put it in the chat and we will answer those questions toward the last 15 minutes. And then there's also a little smiley face with a hand. So that's how you raise your hand if you would like to add a comment. Panelists and everyone wants you, if you're not speaking, let's make sure to mute yourself so that we don't get background noises. And this panel is being recorded. You probably can see the little things up top, but with that aside, I'm going to let our three amazing panelists introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Victoire Soumano. I use the she series pronouns. I am from Kuchala in Mali, West Africa. I am currently a sophomore studying geology, and I don't have a minor yet.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Val. I use she, her pronouns as well. And I'm actually originally from Turin, Italy. This is my last year of college, so I'm a senior, and I am double majoring in physics and mathematics. I'm looking forward for a great future.
Oh, Sherry, you, I think you're mute, so. Just a little microphone.
Yep. Sorry, I thought I clicked unmute. Hi guys, my name is Sherry. I'm originally from China. Let's see, what's the question? I use she, her pronouns. I was double majoring accounting and finance when I was at Westminster. I graduated last year, May 2020.
That's great. Thank you. So I have, before we jump in, so we definitely have some questions that our panelists will answer. But before that, I am going to share with you my 5-minute presentation. So let's see if I can do that in 5 minutes. Let's see. So please let me know if you see my screen. Somebody just come off mute and say something.
Yes.
I can see it.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Okay, well, it's not showing. Okay, so I have a little math equations right here. So before we jump in, I just want everyone to kind of have like a mutual understanding of the finance for international student. So our total cost of attendance is around $55,000 for 1 year. And this is include the direct costs and the indirect costs. So the direct cost would be the bill from Westminster, and that's your tuitions. And if you, it would usually be your tuition, room, and food, right? And then the indirect costs is an estimate of your personal expense. So, you know, the money that you use to buy your books, health insurance, your clothes, going out, traveling, all of that. So remember this big number, right? $55,000, that's include your direct and indirect. So some of it will come from Westminster and some of it will be an estimate. And you know, if you buy a book, then you wouldn't pay to Westminster. And Nathan will drop a link in the chat that show our cost of attendance breakdown, so you really see what make up this big number. Okay, and then if you apply to Westminster, you are automatically considered for merit-based scholarship or academic scholarship. So some of you who have been admitted, you probably know your merit-based scholarship also. And then we also have the need-based scholarship. So this is based on your financial need, and you will need to fill out the CSS profile for this. You may have filled out the CSS profile for other schools. So if you did that, that's great. You can just have it sent to Westminster College to be considered for need-based also. So the merit base is based on your high school performance, and if you're transferring here from a college, then it's your college performance, and the need base is based on your financial need. And then we'll also make sure to share with you the link to our International Student Financial Aid page that has more information on the scholarship, right? So we have our big number, and then we have the financial aid package that have. So when you see financial aid, there's multiple things, right? There's different scholarships, grants, loans. So that's your financial aid package. And the last number is what the most important one, which is the estimate of costs that you are expected to pay per year, right? So it depends on what your merit-based scholarship and your need-based scholarship is. Usually this number is different for everyone, but approximately after scholarships and grants, the costs that students are expected to contribute is approximately $25,000 per year. Again, it's different for each student, but usually it's around this number. And this is also the requirement for your Form I-20. It's right here, I-20. So if you are not sure what that is, so that is a form for your F1 visa. And, you know, no matter what colleges in the US that you got accepted to, once you decide which school you're going to go with, you're going to have to apply for the I-20 because it's for your student visa to come to the US. And the requirement for the I-20 is that you have to show the financial proof that you have a current available funding to cover the estimate of costs, right? So in this case, it would be $25,000. And you can kind of see I highlight the current available funding. So it has to be like a checking or a saving account. So you can show your bank statement or your scholarships letter, and or if you borrow student loans either from the US or from your home country, anything like that, then we need proof of that also. But it would have to be currently available, like right now. So the reason that I kind of want to talk about this before we jump into with the panel, because our panelists will share many opportunities for you to work on campus, to do internship, maybe paid internship, to find scholarship and things like that. Keep in mind that those are future funding opportunities, right? It's not happening now yet, it's future once you're a Westminster student. So you cannot use those numbers for your I-20. If you decided to work on like going with Westminster and apply for your I-20 right now, Nathan and I would be working with you, and you cannot use that like the future income for the current requirement. I hope that makes sense. But with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and we can jump into part 2 of all of this financial stuff. and listen to our panelists. So you should see, does everybody see each other again? Yeah, okay, great. Yep, so remember during this panel, if you have any questions, write it down. You can write it in the chat. We will make sure to answer all of your questions toward the end. So let's start our panel, okay? So my first questions for all of our panelists is how did you first hear about Westminster, and what led you to choose Westminster?
I have a very unique story. I am, as I said, I'm originally from Italy, but I also have an older sister that just a year before me decided to live Italy and and start her journey here at Westminster. And I don't know, it was just so such a bizarre situation to be in, because like I was back home finishing up high school. It was my fifth year, my last year, and I was just talking to my sister, and then every weekend she would tell me about the friends that she met, conversations she had with her professors, and I was just I was struggling through high school, studying a lot, and so I just decided to take a leap of faith, and I applied, and that's how I ended up at Westminster. We've been having a great time, so no regrets.
I also had kind of a unique way, if you'll say it like that. So my junior year of high school, I became an exchange student with the Youth Exchange and Study program, and I was placed in Montana for my host year and everything, and it was a great experience. So I went back home after my exchange year, and I started my senior year of high school. But halfway through my senior year, I got an opportunity to come to the American International School of Utah. So I came in halfway through my senior year, and then I graduated. And so as graduation was getting close, I was kind of panicking about what I wanted to do. I got into a couple of colleges that I wanted to, but they were very expensive, and they didn't really give that much scholarship to international students. And so my advisor was like, hey, you should apply for this school called Westminster. And I'm like, what? Why? I was kind of skeptical about it at first. And then I went on tours on campus, and I talked with the international student office, and it turned out like even though the costs were pretty high, they also had equal opportunity for like international students and in-state students, which was way better than the other colleges I applied to. So that's how I heard about Westminster, and that's also why I decided to come here.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. So let's jumping into continuous student scholarships. So a lot of our new students here, they're they're familiar with the merit-based scholarships, but let's see if have you ever received any continuous student scholarships, and just tell it a little bit more, like the process of how you apply, which scholarships you receive. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been very lucky, and I was eligible for the continuing scholarship every year. I mean, not only eligible, every student is eligible. I was granted a continuing student scholarship every year, and that has definitely helped me a lot financially through Westminster. And I've also got a merit-based scholarship that through the Department of Math. And that was kind of like the cherry on top. I think it was between my sophomore year and my junior year. I remember I was back at home and I got an email like, oh, I got an extra scholarship. Yes. So I was super excited. And yeah, and there are also a lot of opportunities for external scholarships, private scholarships. that I've actually I didn't know about up until too late. But well, that's also a possibility, and I'm sure more people can talk about it.
Yeah, so starting my sophomore year, I was also eligible to apply for continuing scholarships. And I was awarded I think it was the Gore Math and Science. Yeah, I think it's the Math and Science scholarship from the continuing batch, which was amazing because I really needed it at the time. And since then, I've applied for a second time, and I've also received the same scholarship, which, again, thank goodness. As for the application process, it's honestly not hard. So once you're a sophomore, around January, December-ish, you receive an email from the financial aid office. And I think as soon as you're a sophomore at Westminster, everyone is eligible for it. So it's a series of questions that you need to answer, like what's your major, what's your minor, what are your field of interest, and what career would you like to pursue, and other questions that are very easy to answer, and they don't require an essay. It's like a paragraph for each answer, just to help the financial aid office kind of classify which scholarship will be best for you. So it's a fairly easy and stressless process, and it helps a lot.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm happy that you guys continue to receive scholarships, during your time here. It looks like Nathan was asking Val, what were some of the outside scholarships that you found out about later in the process?
Yeah, of course. So I actually, when my sophomore junior year, I worked as a mentor and tutor at Cottonwood High School, which is a high school close by Westminster, and I had to do a presentation on scholarships and how to apply to scholarships and where to find scholarships. So I stumbled upon amazing websites, and I can absolutely put a few in the chat that are open specific, for instance, to women in science, which is my category, or international students specifically. So it's really only about the digging, like the actually putting in the work and looking for scholarships that work for you. And when my freshman year, first of all, I didn't even know that was a possibility as an international student to receive money from private. Like, I didn't see that as a feasible option. And then I just started looking, and I was so overwhelmed by the amount of actually resources that there are out there. Yeah. And I'll look for those websites and put them in the chat.
Yes, please send us website. And this is like a good thing that you guys attend the event, because the recording doesn't show the chat. So if you're listening to this recording and you want to know about those links, please email me or Nathan. Also, before we jump on to our next questions, I just want to remind everybody, if there's a questions, if there's a concern, something come to your mind, this is why we're here, right? So make sure you put it in the chat before you forget, and then we will revisit them toward the end. With that, I'm gonna jump next to our campus job. So tell us about your campus job. What are your job? What did you how, like, again, the process, right? So when did you start applying? If you have more than one job, and what do you do? Like, exactly what do you do working, right? And then also, is it hard for you to just like working and studying and running from one place to another?
Well, it's been I'm sorry, I need a glass of water. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Sherry or Victoire, you guys can go because you both, I know you both have some to share.
I can go. I had worked on campus since I was a sophomore in the second semester of my sophomore year. And then I think the most of the time when I had the most jobs on campus, I had 3 all at once, plus like 15 hours of credit hours, I think. It was not that hard for me, to be honest, because most of the on-campus jobs, I will be 100% honest, they are very easy and very friendly to like on-campus students. They don't require you to do a lot of stuff. And most of your managers will be like people that you know, and there will be like staff or your professors, right? Like if you ever find a conflict, talk to them. You're like, I need that day off, or I need a time slot change with others because I have something coming up, and they're really, really understandable of like any emergency situations or any other like based situations. And I would say like a lot of them are really friendly. They don't give you a lot of work, so that gave you a lot of opportunity to work, also study. So it was easy for me to maintain like a overall GPA that I was really satisfied with. Also, like getting some extra money to help my living and stuff like that. So, I mean, just do your work, right? Like a lot of professors are still expecting you to, pay attention to your work and do your work, but also like if you are really like know how to manage your time, manage your schedule, you should be fine.
Will you just also, I think did you say what kind of job it was? I think you said 3, but
yeah, so like so 2 of them are the same places, which is like, I was a receptionist at a gym, and also I was working at the main office of Gore School of Business. So basically like 2 receptionist jobs over there. And the gym job was like one part of the other, so.
thank you. I'm gonna pick on Victoire so Val can drink a little bit more water.
Yeah. Okay, so on-campus jobs, I've had a lot of them, and I still have quite a few of them. I can go through a list, I guess. I got my first job during my first semester, actually. So after applying, I talked with my advisor from the International Student Office, and I shared with her that my scholarship are going to be helpful, but I need to work on campus to help pay for the rest of the tuition. So she directed me to create a Handshake account with my Westminster logins. And so once I logged on to Handshake, there were all these job opportunities, and I applied for the library, the Deer Valley Library. So I still am kind of at the circulation desk. So pretty much what I do is I help people check out books. Sometimes we decorate the library for Halloween or Christmas or stuff like that. But pretty much being there, like if people have questions, and with COVID, kind of making sure everyone is following, the guidelines. And because I didn't have enough hours there, I also applied to work at the registrar's office. And I got the job as well, which was cool. What I did there was also kind of mostly helping with registration for classes, like if you had questions, calling in, and I'm just going to transfer them to the right office and stuff like that. As Sherry said, it wasn't that much, too much responsibility, but you kind of need to balance in, figure your time out. And the third job I had my freshman year was working at the Dean's of Student office. So I was there also kind of as an assistant, answering questions, running errands, like during lockouts when someone locked themselves out of their apartment and the RAs are in class. So we did that as well, as kind of, selling tickets. For example, like when the jazz tickets were on sales or stuff like that, kind of give those out. And so those were the jobs I got like my first semester at Westminster. So I would strongly encourage you to apply. On Handshake, there are a lot of options, and you can see what floats your boat, what doesn't. And as I kind of progressed in my academic career, now I'm a sophomore, I got different jobs. I still work at some of those jobs, but this year, since I was eligible, I applied to be a resident advisor in RA. And that is very helpful because you get free housing and it's an amazing job. Like you get to connect with other students and organize events, and it's very fun. It's a little bit more responsibility than the other jobs because it's kind of like all the time when people have questions, they come up to you, then open your door. You have to be on duty on some days and stuff, but it's honestly a rewarding job. And let's see, what else do I do? I also work as the coordinator of Black Excellence on Campus, which is a program to support Black students and raise awareness and bring up conversations. So as a coordinator, my job is to kind of, organize panels, organize other events to kind of have discussions, involve people in diversity and everything. And the last on my list, I promise I don't have any more. The last one on my list is I work as a research assistant. I started this research project actually during the summer of my freshman year with my professor, and it's a really cool research project. We go in the fields, like we grab samples, and in my case, we're making thin sections, which is pretty much taking. I'm actually working on. That's why I'm in the lab, but it's like taking a rock like this and making as thin as paper, so you can see through it, and figure out if there are microfossils or minerals in it, and kind of figure out the history of an area. And so, we have had a lot of questions about some fossils we're finding that are kind of big giant sea scorpions that we're trying to figure out. So. Yeah, that's part of my job, and it's interesting because it helps me with my major and I also get paid for it. But yeah, those are all the jobs I've done and I still do on campus.
I was going to give you a hard time, like, what do you not do instead of what do you do?
You're like, let me look at my resume because I can't remember.
That's an impressive resume. I'll keep my list real short.
Instead of trying to make 2-page resume, you're shortening it to like 3 pages, right?
Yeah. I mean, all that to say is like there's a lot of opportunities at Westminster. And as I said, it's like, actually, I didn't touch on that, but do not overwhelm yourself. I did, and this semester I had to drop like some of my jobs because it was getting like too much to balance them. And like I'm taking 16 credits, and being a STEM major, like you guys understand. So it's like, as much as there are so many opportunities, like be selective and don't overwhelm yourself. Like that's a mistake I made my freshman year and still working through it. But yeah, that's something to take into account.
Well, I don't know. I can share too. It's not as cool, but oh well. I started working my freshman year as well, and I started as a mentor at Cottonwood High School, and I would go to this high school and just teach math, physics, kind of tutor all the students, and I had that job for 3 years, but I feel it was so far away. I mean, far away. I had to take the bus because I didn't have a car back then, so it was a 30-minute bus ride back and forth. So I was like, yeah, maybe not so worth it. So I got a second job, and I started working in the Disability Services and Testing Center, which is also in the library. So Victoire, I think I'll start seeing you more often now that I can pay attention. And and pretty much what we do is we make sure that all the students that are registered with the disability services have access to their accommodations. And we make sure that campus is accessible. Our new director, her name is Jody. She's absolutely amazing. And yeah, I remember there was we had a one time there was some snow that wasn't wasn't being shoveled for some reason. So we got out and we cleaned the road to make sure that campus was accessible. And I don't know, love that memory. It was super fun. And finally, and I've also been a grader for calc for a class, but not super exciting. As I said, I work 20 hours a week, which is the maximum amount that is allowed as a student. But as Sherry said, it's very, you can definitely balance this, work, school life very easily, especially because people are very understanding and they know that being a student is the priority in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, and also one last thing, I wanted to mention that if you do stick around and you stay at the same job for multiple years, you do get a raise every year. So I would definitely encourage people to stick to one job.
That's great advice. And yes, and the nice thing, so I work as an advisor at a different school, as a bigger school, and it's hard to have more than one job unless you're at Westminster, because Westminster is so small and you can just walk between your job and your class. But at the school that I was at, every time I go somewhere, it's like a little hike. I'm like, can't do this. But yeah, just a little fun story. So that's really cool. And then I'm super excited for our next questions, which is about internships. And so please share with us your experience with internship, right? Is for, just to clarify, internship is when you work in your major. Like say if you study business and you have a business internship with a real company, right? And it can be on campus, or it can be off campus, outside companies. So share with us your experiences applying for them, because they, how does that different than applying for a job on campus, right? And what was the internship? What was the name of it? What is it about? What do you do? Yeah, and is it hard to do it with your job and your study?
I'll go and then let break for a while if she needs some water. I worked on one internship when I was still at school, and I started working the summer I turned to a senior. I worked in a construction company in their accounting department as an accounting intern. That's also associated with my major. I was a double major in accounting and finance. Just like all three of us, I worked 20 hours, even though it was an internship. So lucky enough, I was able to have my car and commute to work. And in my accounting department over there, it was really nice. I talked to my manager. I was like, well, I need to work between school and here. So we need to figure out like a schedule for me. I'm only able to work 20 hours if I can work in different time slots to get my things done. And she was really nice, and she's like willing to work with me and to manage like a schedule for me, just for me to work in the accounting department. So it was turned really nice. They originally gave me like 4-month terms, but I turned it into like a full year experience after I talked to her, and she was pretty satisfied with what I did. And I was like, I wanted to stay over here to turn it to a part-time job, and she totally agreed with it. So I had that job right after I graduated, so a little bit more than a year. It was paid, and the amount was actually pretty good compared to what you can get from campus. I'll be honest over here. And I got this internship through one of my professors. So that's a piece of suggestion to all of you. Talk to a lot of people that you know, including your professors, because they're really awesome people and they probably have a lot of resources that you can access. Open to talk to them and tell them you're looking for jobs, or you're looking for internships, opportunities. And a lot of times they will introduce you to like some sort of company that you would never heard about, and it might turn to a really great opportunity and might turn to a full-time job as well. I think on campus you use Handshake as a platform. But if you're looking for an internship, there's LinkedIn, there's also Glassdoor, a lot of things that you can use for platforms, and oftentimes they will have a lot of different internships that associate with your major to be posted over there. So I think the campus hosts like a job fair every year at the beginning of the semester, and every students will come to attend those job fairs. They have some awesome companies every year attend that job fair. I think that you also host like job fairs very often as well, and we're as Westminster students, we're also welcomed on those job fairs. I think that's my suggestion. And Val, you can go.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I had a lot of opportunities through Westminster. So my sophomore year, again, I'm a member of the physics club, physics and math club at Westminster. So we are in a newsletter, so we get emails about opportunities and the things that we can do, and it's so great. I'm so glad I signed up for that. And my sophomore year, I got this email about an opportunity at NASA. So I applied, obviously, and I ended up getting in, and it was a year-long program. It started in August and it ended in July. And it was just an amazing opportunity. I saw presentations from some of the smartest people I'll ever met, and I learned about mission concepts, like how do you write all the paperwork behind starting a mission, and then we had once we had the paperwork and it was like this, it's like 80 pages. It was a group of 4 people, and we just sat there and wrote for hours. And once it was approved, it was a simulation. Obviously, we didn't actually send anything to Mars, but then we moved to the more practical part, and we built our rocket and our project, and it was incredible. I absolutely loved every aspect of that. That unfortunately was not paid, but honestly, I can write NASA on my resume, so I can't complain. Instead, this last summer, I did a research with one of my professors, and it was math research, so way more abstract than rocket ship and and space travel. And I studied a field of mathematics that is called topology. And specifically, I looked into knot theory, which is the study of, quite literally the study of knots. So you can think about real life, everyday knots like that we use to tie boats. And there's a whole field of mathematics that studies how you can undo these knots without breaking them apart. And I might sound a little silly, but when we can take this concept and we can apply it to so many different things in physics, for instance, or even biology. For instance, the way the DNA rubs up in your cells, there are enzymes that go in and have to break those knots to make the DNA readable. And if we can actually understand how these enzymes works and how we can untie the DNA in a specific spot, then we can reassemble the DNA as we like it. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you did mention something about your internship with NASA, where you can have your ideas sent to companies, right? Is that right?
Yes, so it was, we had a lab that we could use, since we, I don't have access to, gosh, English. I don't have access to all the tools that I actually need to build a rocket. So we would send requests to this lab that would then like 3D print things for us or assemble it the way we want it. And yeah, that was it. It was awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So we talk about, we talk about continued student scholarship, working on campus, and internships, right? So those are the things that you can do for the next 4 years to help you pay and cover for the different expenses here. So my next questions, and before I ask that, please don't forget to write down your questions and comments. We will love to hear, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here for. So my next question is, can you, panelists, can you give us an idea of like the income, the funding that you get? Like, can you cover that? What kind of expense that you can cover that with?
Now I'm getting just really jealous. Val was able to build like a rocket. I was only able to build like a balance sheet. My thing sounds really lame. No, I'm just kidding. My internship is still really cool though. Back to the question, I can give an idea. So out of like everything that I have been given at Westminster, the scholarships plus my continuing scholarship plus like the money that I was able to earn on campus or even with my internship, the scholarships and continuing student scholarships was covered like more than half of my tuition and living expenses, I would say. And I was able to earn some money by myself on campus as well as like working that internship. I think at the very last year in my school year, I really didn't need anything from my parents. So basically I was able to cover my own expenses. But that's like working on that internship. If you're working on campus, I think you can pretty much take care of yourself, of your groceries, and if you eat out, things like that. Well, obviously, don't expecting a lot of. You're not going to have like a big amount of savings if you're working on campus. I will be honest over here because 20 hours plus like the school's wages is not that much, but you could definitely afford some like groceries and things like that. Normal things should be easy though.
Yeah. Before I answer, I think there is a question in the chat for you, Sherry.
So the academic scholarship was, so I think the academic scholarship was when you got admitted, you got considered because your high school GPA. The continuing student scholarship, it was awarded based on your performance over at Westminster. So the first year you won't be eligible for a continuing student scholarship, but after the first, I think it was after the first semester, you're able to get that invite, and then based on your GPA and the questions that you have answered, the essays that you have wrote to Westminster, you should be able to be considered if you apply for the continuing student scholarship, I think. And then the rest 3 years of your college life, you should always be able to eligible for continuing student scholarship. And then you will still be able to get your academic and plus like whatever you can get with your continuing student scholarship if you're award one.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. Thank you.
Yeah. So regarding how much the income and scholarships help, they do help a lot. I personally am also kind of in a kind of not traditional position where my host family from high school still supports me and we're still very close, so they help me with groceries. But I decided to send kind of all my income and like from on-campus jobs and scholarships toward tuition. And like in instances like last semester, I was able to cover my whole tuition before the end of the semester. So then that extra money, I could have had it in my account, but I decided to like send it toward paying for this current semester. But as Sherry said, you can still like be able to cover like your basic needs from the income and the scholarship. It's not a whole lot that you can flex on, but it still kind of sustains you. So yeah.
Awesome. So yes, please keep the questions coming in. We have this last questions, and then we'll just answer your questions in the chat. So what's one piece of financial advice or like a money saving tip, or maybe just a general advice that you would give to a prospective students when they're transitions to Westminster? Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to say, probably one of the biggest piece of advice that I could give anyone is getting a credit card, just to start building your credit score. Because I don't know if all of you are from the United States, but yeah, credit score is a thing that I'm pretty sure other people can talk about it more eloquently than I can. I mean, they can definitely talk about it better than I do. But from my very limited understanding, it's a way of defining how good you are with money, and how reliable you are. Well, so as an international student, obviously I couldn't apply for, I cannot use my, starting from my parents or anything like that. So I had to start from zero. And I found out about this amazing card that is called a secured credit card, that behaves just like a credit card. So you pay up front, you take the money out of the credit card, and then you pay at the end of the month. But it starts with a secure deposit. So you put in the money when you open the card, and then after a set amount of time, for me it was, for instance, 6 months, they send me back my deposit, and they raised my what's a good word? The
Credit.
The credit. Yes.
Yeah, like your credibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And that helped me a lot building up my credit, which is something that is very important once you start looking for houses, to rent apartments, to rent houses, because after your sophomore year, you can choose to live off campus. So you're gonna have to deal with, landlords, and they might have requests about the credit score, and depending on your credit score, they can give you like maybe some discount or a lower deposit. And since it takes some time to build up that credit, the sooner you get that credit card, the better.
My piece of financial advice will be budgeting. That's something that I kind of learned the hard way, but please do not take it lightly. It will save your life, kind of. So it's like, once you get your paycheck or you have an idea of how much you'll earn, take at least like an hour or 30 minutes like each month to plan out how much you want to spend on what, just so you don't overstep and end up finding yourself in a non-pleasant situation where you need money and you don't have it until the end of the month. And a funny thing that I do to remind myself is I have it on paper and I paste it on my door. So before I go out with my friends or stuff, I'm like, okay, we can't spend more than this, just kind of a reminder. And yeah, that's kind of a simple advice, but it's something that has helped me a lot. So that's an advice I have to give.
My advice was kind of like Victoire's. I would say which bank you're with, download the app, right? Like they will have some analysis of like what category you're spending every month. So if you're overspending on your other stuff, like your clothes is spending a lot, be aware of that, right? Like I think definitely use the financial tools that you have access with, and trying to save a little bit for yourself. in case that once you have that emergency somehow, you're ready for it. You have that financial for it.
Yes. Yes, and those are life skill. And I just want to specify that when Val say, get a credit card, that's a part of the equation, but the other half is like be responsible with your credit card, because it can be a double-edged sword. It can harm you too if you get a credit card and you spend a lot. So a credit card is like you spend and then you pay, right? You spend on the money, and then at the end of the month you pay for that. So it's not like cash where you just put the cash in and pay right away. So if if you spend a lot and then you don't pay it all, then you will have a low credit score, and that would not be good. That's not what we want. We want to go the opposite direction, to show that you can you can pay back what you own. And now we're going to open the panel up to answers participant questions. If you have questions, again, you can come unmute and just ask that, or drop it in the chat. We're happy to answer that. So Nathan,
Yes, I'll give you an update. We've kind of answered all the questions that were in the chat, but I did have a couple other pieces of information to try to share, which include, well, first I wanted to ask Victoire, because we had talked about this yesterday. What is the process for applying for these continuing education scholarships? Is it like an email that you get? Do you have to seek these things out? Tell us a little bit more about that, because it's something I don't even know enough about.
Yeah, so once, I think it's after your first semester or your first year when you're eligible, the financial aid office kind of sends this email to all the students at Westminster that are eligible. So keep on the look for that. Check your emails during December, January, and then it usually leads you to a link where you need to answer these questions. I think I mentioned them earlier, like your major, your minor, your career intentions, and other questions, like more specific questions to direct you toward the correct donors. And yeah, that's pretty much the process. You receive the email, click on the link, finish your application, and wait.
Okay, great, excellent. And the other thing is, we have a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship also, which is for transfer students. So we actually award, is it $1,000 or $2,000 additional each year? When do you remember?
Which one are you talking
The
about?
Phi Theta Kappas for the transfer students.
Oh, yes.
Members.
It's not 1 or 2, it's $3,000, extra $3,000 every year. So everybody who's a transfer student in the room, if you can, join Phi Theta Kappa. It's an honor society for and you do have to have a high GPA to join, but you should receive an invitation to join. But if you can show that certificate when you transfer to Westminster, you get an additional $3,000 per year. Okay, so I'm gonna drop that name down. Oh, and Victoire, go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's why I can raise my hand quietly. But about transfer students, another program is if you're first generation students, so if none of your parents been to college, we have the Legacy Scholars. And we have for freshmen, but we also have the STEP Legacy if you're a transfer student that you can apply for. And you receive, it's not a big scholarship, but they do give you book money to pay for your books. And you just need to keep a minimum GPA, I think, of 2.9 or 2.5, I think. And you get all your textbooks paid for. So that's also an opportunity for transfer and freshmen that I forgot to mention.
And isn't up to $500 every semester, every year?
Yeah. Every semester, yes.
Okay. Perfect. With that, Val, I think you mentioned that you're a part of a club that would allow you to go to conferences, something like that?
Yes. Yeah. Just going back to that physics and math club. Yeah, they just, every time there's an opportunity to go to conferences, attend conferences, they send out emails, and everybody is welcome to register. Before the whole pandemic happened, I actually managed to fly out. I went to, what was it, South Dakota, so not a long flight, but Westminster paid for it, and they paid for my they waived all my fees for to attend the conference, and that was the conference for undergraduate women in physics, and it was, oh my gosh, it was so good. I absolutely love that, which is actually one of the main reasons to why I'm planning on getting my PhD now. So yeah, that definitely played a big role. And I also wanted to address Sophia's question about the F1. What was it? She asked about off-campus jobs. So yeah, the CPT, that's definitely an option. Like Nathan said, you're eligible to get to apply for a CPT after 1 year of school. But in my case, it was considered an on-campus job, even if I had to be off campus to actually do it. It's just, since it was through the school, that was considered an extension of campus, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think Nathan has, so Val, this is one for you. Which graduate schools do you plan to apply? Do you have a research topic that you want?
Yeah, so I am gonna go into particle physics. So high energy particles, and it's gonna be at the U, hopefully. Not sure yet. I would like to work for a year now that I'm about to graduate, so I'm gonna be able to, since I'm a STEM major, I get 3 years of OPT, which is a 3-year, usually 1 year work permit, we could say, that it's an extension of your F1. But as I said, if you're a STEM major, you are eligible for 3 years. Oh yeah, the U is the University of Utah. So yeah, so I would like to work for a little bit, make a little bit of money, and then go back to school.
That's great. I wanted to add that all students here can actually take classes at the University of Utah. Like if you wanted to study something abstract or something that we maybe didn't offer here at Westminster College, you can take a certain number of classes at the University of Utah as well while you're a current student here at Westminster. So just think about that also as another opportunity, along with sharing resources, as was mentioned earlier, as far as when they have big job fairs and big national and international companies come to Utah. Our Westminster students are invited to go up to the University of Utah to speak with those employers in those internship opportunities there. So I wanted to mention that. I think how much time do we have left, Wynn?
So we're actually out of time. Did we answer all of the questions, Nathan, in the chat?
We did. We did answer all the questions. I think before we close, I think we need to ask each of our panelists one quick question. Where is their favorite place to eat and hang out on campus or in Salt Lake City? Just a quick hit. It's like no more than like 10 or 15 words, but you can list more than one place. Anyone want to start?
Yeah, I can start. We were kind of talking that like before we really got started. I like hiking, and there's plenty of places and trails that you can hike around Salt Lake area. You can pretty much access so many hikes or trails within like 15 minutes or 20 minutes from campus. So that's what I do usually when I'm free.
Great.
For me, I'm not that much of an outdoorsy person, but I absolutely love Sugar House coffee, which is, it's a, what is it? It's a store. They make amazing coffees, and pre-COVID, it was just a great place to hang out. You could go in, get a cup of coffee, and stay there for hours, and you would meet the most incredible people ever. They always have crazy stories. So yeah, definitely my favorite.
Is it open now, Valeria, for people to sit in? No? Not quite yet. Okay. There are quite a few restaurants in Salt Lake City that are open for in-dining, eating. So that's unusual in some countries. That's still not, or even some states in the U.S. There's some states that still have a lockdown, but Utah is pretty. I would say we're about 65 to 70% open across the state, and I would say more so outside of Salt Lake City. I would say it's probably like 85 to 90% open outside of Salt Lake City, but we are the largest city in the state of Utah. So, Victoire, I want to let you answer that question.
Yeah. Just like Sherry, I also love hiking, so it's very convenient. There's like the 220 bus line. I can just go hike on the weekends and kind of relax. I also love Sugar House Coffee. I'm there almost every almost every other day. Yeah, pre-COVID it was amazing. I also love the B-Dubs. There's B-Dubs like literally 5 minutes walk from the draw, which is one of our on-campus housing. So in that area, there's a lot of tea restaurants you can go to, but Sugar House Coffee and B-Dubs are definitely some of my favorites.
Sorry, what is B-Dubs?
It's kind of a restaurant, not really fast food, but not really restaurant either. It's kind of a hybrid where their specialty is chicken wings, and they're amazing.
So that's not short for Buffalo Wild Wings, is it? It's something else?
It is, yes.
Oh, Buffalo Wild Wings. Okay. All right. If you haven't had a Buffalo Wild Wing, they're very good, and they have like over 15, 20 different flavors of wings. And so yeah, and then they have like either ranch dressing or blue cheese dressing and like celery and carrot sticks. That's the healthy portion of it. Right. So, and Wen, do you have a favorite place?
Yes, tea bar. Hello, who drink boba tea? I said this like in every panel. Like tea bar should pay me for marketing their thing. But boba tea, tapioca, and milk tea, we have one that is within walking distance. Like it's like 15 minutes, and you can get there. And the boba is good. It's very chewy. I tasted it a couple times.
That's great.
Anyway, so yeah, Nathan, do you want to add a restaurant?
Sure. I like barbecue, so like R&R barbecue, they're like starting to pop up all over the state of Utah, and Sugar House Barbecue is also very good. So those are my top 2 barbecue places here in Utah. And this picture behind me is a hike, so you got to be able to walk off the barbecue, all the weight that you gain from eating barbecue. And this is a good place to go hiking. This is up at the Solitude ski area, which is about 35 minutes from campus. There's 3 beautiful lakes: Lake Solitude, it's called Emerald Lake, and then Twin Lakes. So you get to see 3 lakes on one hike. Pack plenty of water, especially in the hot middle part of the summer. But this photo was taken 2 years ago in July, and so there was still snow up there 2 years ago. So that's about it.
Hey, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, panelists. Thank you for sharing your insights and sharing your experience. I think this is very, very helpful. And yeah, like I've learned a lot of new things too. So thank you so much. If you have any questions or would like to connect with me and Nathan, I put our emails, and Val also dropped her emails in there in the chat. So just hurry over to the chat, snap a picture, because that'd be faster than writing it down. But yeah, with that, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope everybody have a wonderful night. Okay. Right, goodbye everyone.